Hey everyone, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation, back with another Friday 15 minutes with me. Part of our mission here inside Endurance Nation is built around education. As we're making athletes become more independent. We're trying to build people who are better at being self-coached. A huge part of that is information, right? You can find an 8-week training plan online, or you can pull some of that out of a magazine. That doesn't mean you're self-coached. That just means you're following some sort of training plan, right? Self-coached athletes make better decisions over time to be successful. And being a self-coached athlete means you understand the nuances between managing training, managing recovery, and sort of making all of the relevant decisions relative to all those pieces of the puzzle. So when I think about becoming more and more effective as a self-coached athlete, a huge part of that is learning to iterate and learning from others, right? So part of it is my own mistakes and my own learnings. Another part of it is working with information from other folks. And so part of this Friday 15 minutes is to impart some of my knowledge and lessons from coaching since 2004, working with endurance athletes from all walks of life to help you make better decisions related to your training and racing. So with that said, obviously the comments are live. You can drop a chat right in there in Facebook, and I'm happy to help you out, answer your questions in particular here. This is just one of the many sort of live events that we do, and you can always find more. If you go to endurancenation.us/events, you'll see all of the places where I am live during the month. You can attend other learning events as well. All right. So this week's topic is talking about defining volume targets by sport and by fitness. And this is a really important concept in terms of how we work with age group athletes as related to making them race ready, competition ready, event ready, epicness ready, on a fixed time schedule. Okay. And so it's really important that I put that last part in there. It's like an asterisk, but it's huge, like the size of my head, very, very, very large. Hard to tell because of my awesome bookshelf behind me, but actually disproportionately large skull. When we think about setting appropriate volume targets, one of the reasons why it becomes so critical is because as we go through, I'm going to put them up here as well. There we go. Awesome. I got the comments rocking and rolling too. So type away. Okay. Sorry. Little pop up there on my screen. Is that athletes will often dream up volume targets related to their event that just don't fit the place where they're starting. Okay. Does that make sense? So like, for example, let's just say you work 9 to 5, regular job, you've got a family, et cetera, young kids. So you can't really get out of the house. You can't do too much in the morning. You can train a little bit in the morning. And then you get the weekends free, but hey, little kids want to spend some time with them. So your weekend time is also limited as well. So at the end of the day, you may only have like 12 hours a week to train for your ambitious epic goal, which is still a lot of time to train, but doesn't feel that way when we slice and dice it across 12 hours across 7 days during the week, right? It gets to be about, an hour and a half on average a day, which doesn't feel so epic when you look at Instagram and see everyone else training. And so people will set ambitious goals. They say, I'm doing this 100-mile ultra trail race. As such, I need to be able to train. I need to be able to run 80 miles a week for this run. I don't know why you would say that. Please don't say that. Please Google UltraRunning. Please reach out to us on the chat widget on our site. Ask us questions. We'll stop you from doing that. But people will set that ambitious goal. And then all of that really drives the decision-making related on a daily basis to their training and ultimately to their racing. And if you set the inappropriate volume goal, then basically you've sort of set this marker and you said, I'm on a journey. I'm starting from here. I'm going to point myself at that direction. And if I attain that marker, that goal, I'm being successful on my journey, right? And the danger with doing that with the volume goals is that volume goals aren't readily accessible, right? If you said, hey, I'm going to get out of bed at 6 a.m. every day this week, that's short-term and very accessible. I could see that I'm already on track. Day one, hey, 6 a.m., I'm up. Great. I've got a good habit and I'm building it. When we set a volume goal, we have to get to that goal, right? So if I said I'm going to run an 80-mile week, for example, I've got to be able to get myself from where I am now. Say I'm running 30 miles, constraint associated with it. And then all of a sudden, all of my training, all of my work between now and this 80 marker that I put out there, which is somewhere between race, event day, and now, becomes driven by that target. And if we set the wrong target, then we're doing all of the wrong work, right? So it's very important that when you start setting volume targets for yourself related to your sport or related to your fitness, that we do it the right way. So it's worth spending some time. I'll talk about it today for a couple of minutes, but it's certainly worth doing your research, talking to other people who've raced, talking to your friends, teammates, getting on social media, reaching out to other folks, getting the story behind the story, not just seeing, oh, hey, this person that I follow, she just ran 80 miles this week. If she can do it, I can do it. You don't know the backstory. You don't know what it took for her to get there. It could have taken years. She could have tried multiple times and failed. She did something different this time. Who knows what it is? But there's always more information and more behind that story than just where you are now, right? So I'm going to talk about two specific examples today. I'm going to talk about specifically running and the ultra running side of things, and then I'll talk about triathlon as well. Just as sort of two examples for setting some volume goals for yourself, okay? So on the running side, on the ultra running side, it's really easy to think about setting volume goals for yourself. And when we think about a big event like that 100-mile race, then there's some target mileage per week that people want to get to. For example, I said this 80 mile per week. If I can run 80 miles per week for a set number of weeks, I will be ready. I don't think about volume in that regard. I don't think that volume, that's a useful marker. An 80-mile week does not mean that you will be in any way more successful than someone who doesn't run an 80-mile week. And in many ways, it's just a survivorship bias, right? You'll find lots of people who say they ran 80-mile weeks, but the people who tried to run 80-mile weeks and didn't run 80-mile weeks, or who failed, who got injured, well, they're not out there posting on social media because they didn't do it, right? They're like, I ran 40-mile week and then I broke. Like that is not very, reliked, retweeted, reposted, shared out. They're not getting a book deal. Sponsors are not so happy about that. And so coming up with a goal that's really appropriate for the running side is important. So one of the ways that we think about how we handle volume on the running side inside Endurance Nation, how we hack it for your schedules, we make the most of the weekends. And what we try to do is basically stack back-to-back long runs, right? So we get the double effect of putting 2 quality training days and put it within a 24-hour window. And so really, for those of you running for something like a 100-mile race, you may get to a place where you're doing 30 miles on one day and 20 miles on the next day, roughly half your running in a single weekend. That is a great intermediary target goal for you to be able to run 30, right? Come off of that, recover, and then get back up the next day. People say, but I'm not running 50. I'm running 30 and 20. It's not the same. You're right. It's not the same. Running 50 on some level, once you're past 25, I'm not saying it's easy, but mentally, it's you're closing things down. To have to stop at 30, go home, legs up, fuel, sleep, wake up the next day and get going again, right? Like legs are tired, legs are sore, feet hurt, weather is different, not feeling so hot. The mental aspect of that double run piece is massive. There's huge learnings there, huge mental toughness piece, in addition to people discovering that even though they don't feel well, they go outside, they start running, the legs come around, all of a sudden they feel fine, right? That's a huge breakthrough workout for us when we think about the ultra space, and it's much more manageable for you. So getting you to a place where we can do that 30-20 back-to-back run on a weekend is an awesome and relevant target goal for you, because you get to practice your nutrition. The runs aren't so long that you can do it in different places. Like, for example, if you do a 50-mile run, you're all in for that run. Either it's loops around your neighborhood, or if you're going to go somewhere, you got to plan the logistics of that. If we do 30 and 20, we can have you training in 2 different places on 2 different days. You can do one run with one group of people. You could do another run solo. You could do, some part of the run overnight if you wanted to plan for it. We can get creative when we split that run up, relevant to the course that you're on, etc. So I think much more about that goal. So 50% of your total race volume in a 24-hour period split into 2 different runs is an awesome and appropriate ultra running goal for you to set. Okay. Now, on the triathlon side, people obviously gravitate towards the longer events when they talk about this stuff, but I want to talk about 70.3 distance. I think it's a great marker, and it's a stretch for most athletes to be there. Even the ones who do the Ironman races still want to be competitive at that half distance. So what's an appropriate volume target for people who do 3 sports? This is a great question, right? And a huge part of it comes down to the fitness level, which I mentioned in the title of this segment, which is to say that you have different strengths as an athlete. Some people are great swimmers, not so much with the bike and the run. Other people are great cyclists, not so much on the swim or the bike. Some people are great runners, swim, forget about it, like no way. And the bike, okay, hey, like I can do it. I can figure it out. And so basically your decisions around volume really relate to 2 things. One is what your goals are for the day. And 2 is what fitness do you bring to the table? If you're a really strong runner, then staggering your volume or setting your volume goals related to running really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because our triathlon is essentially the sum of all 3 parts. And if we're just weighting one aspect, which you're already good at, we're really not going to get so much more out of it, right? I think about really playing to our strengths on the bike, because it is the largest part of the day and the biggest return on investment. A 5% improvement on a 6-hour bike is a big change. A 5% improvement on a a 2.5 hour run, not as big as the bike. Still improvement, still important, but not as great, right? And more often than not, by the time we get to the end of the race, improvements on the run are related to bike strength, bike pacing, bike nutrition, better decision making, and so on. So from a volume perspective for athletes, first of all, start off with what your strengths are. And if we have a strength, that automatically moves to the background. So if you show up with a running strength, we're not super worried about a run volume target. We want you to hit the basic run weeks in the program. We want you to hit your race rehearsal workouts. That's great. Instead, we would look at volume on the bike as the primary tool for boosting your fitness. Now, we typically have a race rehearsal workout, which is a 56-mile ride, followed by a run. And that's kind of our test place where you put your race plan into effect. But I do like to recommend that athletes do a little bit of over distance work on the bike, simply to kind of set a new mental barrier. So riding 56 is actually not that long because you've ridden 70, or maybe you've ridden 80 miles, not in a competitive setting, totally aerobic, but you had to break through that mental barrier of getting to 56 and beyond, really sort of showing that you can do it and you can be tactical and engaged on race day because you've survived the distance. We know you can do it. We put a huge check in that box. And so for athletes for looking for volume guidance for the half distance, I do recommend that 80-mile ride sort of as a target for you as a stretch ride or a challenge ride, as we call them here inside Endurance Station. And that's something that we can typically do sort of 12 weeks out and again, 9 weeks out. So we get the volume in early in the cycle. We still have time to specialize race pacing, race position, race nutrition, etc. on your tri bike and being all locked in. But until we get to those last couple of weeks, we have the opportunity to do some of this volume. So similar to that, while we look at one big ride for the bike as sort of the target, on the run side of things, we look at weekly numbers, which are important because no single run should be any more important than any others. We think about putting a triathlon program together. And so for the half distance, a big run week would be about 30 miles, right? So I'd kind of double the mileage and round it up for what your target race distance is. If you can be running 30 miles consistently for a couple of weeks in that key block of time, anywhere from 10 weeks down to about 5 weeks out, so about 5 weeks of 30 miles of running, you're in a fantastic place and you'll be doing just fine on race day, assuming that you're healthy, everything's all together. No, I'm not talking about speed. I'm not talking about hills. I'm not talking about hard work. I'm talking about just getting to a place where you can run 30 miles a week, ideally in about 4 to 5 runs a week, ideally 5, which takes some of the pressure off. You've got a 10-mile run as your long run, then you got 20 miles split up into 4 increments, which is 5 miles. And 4 5-mile runs is pretty easy to do, right? On the swim side of things, on the swim volume thing, we don't do a lot of swimming inside Endurance Station. I'm going to be straight up with you right out of the gate. The return on investment in swimming is really, really low, unless you are not a great swimmer, in which case we do work with you to make sure that you're swimming comfortably, and we can set you up for a successful day. In this case, swimming is most definitely weighted and towards the race itself. So the closer we get to your race, the more swimming that you're doing. We move from doing 2 swims a week to 3 swims a week to working in open water swimming as we're able. In fact, the last 10 days has a ton of swimming in it because swimming is so skill focused. The more we can get you swimming, the more comfortable we can get you in the water in those last couple of days, the more relevant it is. If you're an awesome swimmer in December and then, all sort of things go on, we add other volume, the swim dissipates, but your race is in June, you're not going to carry a lot of those skills over because it's not like riding a bike. We need to be able to be in the water. We need to be able to practice our stroke and get that biofeedback so we can improve what we're doing in the water. And so swim from a volume perspective tends to be much closer into the event. And typically the over distance swimming, is basically, a long set of your race distance. So doing, if you're doing an Ironman, it would be doing 2.4 miles continuous swimming, ideally outdoors in a wetsuit. Same for the half distance. If you want to really be creative, you can put that swim together with a bike workout as well, if that, sort of fits your groove. So from a total perspective, again, thinking about volume for the triathlon side, take your strength, put it in the background, focus instead on the areas that you need the most improvement on. Numbers, if we were to talk about them, are an over distance ride of 80 miles done twice in your build up to the race. Very easy, very aerobic, not meant to be hard in any way. Over distance for the run is really sort of setting a target of hitting anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks consistently of 30 miles will be epic. And those don't have to be fast miles. You're just putting in that time, building the engine. And then on the swim side, it really comes down to those last couple of weeks where we build up to being able to do that complete swim. Remember, we don't swim super fast or super hard on race day. We're just trying to swim steady and not slow down. And so you can do the over distance even while you're tapering in the water. Okay. So I've talked a little bit about the running and the running on the ultra side. I've talked a little bit about the swim side as well. If you have your own questions about what it means to set volume goals or volume targets across your season, definitely reach out. You can go to enduranceNation.us. There's a chat bot at the bottom. Just go ahead and put it in the chat box. It comes directly to me. I'll be happy to answer your questions around over distance and volume. I do believe that for athletes who are on a fixed schedule, being able to put targeted strategic volume on weekends is a great way to maximize your training time, to not try and squeeze more time out of your daily schedule, which is not optimal. Losing sleep is the number one inhibitor of age group athletic performance. Everyone feels like they can find more time by just getting up earlier and earlier and earlier. And while can you do that over the short term? Absolutely. Long term, it's a bad habit to be in because it sets us up to really have some shortcomings in the rest of our day. And ultimately, from mood changes to messing with our circadian rhythms, and ultimately can lead us to be making, poor food choices, et cetera. It just ends up being sort of a negative spiral. So if we can maximize the weekend time and schedule strategic volume, whether it's an over distance workout, whether it's a race simulation workout, whether it's a training camp weekend session, all of that really matters. And those are things that we can plan weeks or months in advance to make sure you've got scheduled time with your family. So you're okay. You say, yes, I can always be off the bike by 9 a.m. Don't worry about it. I'm here for the family all weekend. We're good. But 2 weekends out of the year, and plus race day, so I guess 3 weekends, I need the day. Like I need a Saturday. Like I'll be done at 4, but I need this day to put in the time. That's easy to do. People can plan for a day. They can figure out what to do for a day. What they can figure out to do for a day is every weekend for next 6 weeks is you disappear and don't tell anybody what's going on, right? Hey, Colin, no worries. Great to hear from you. And thanks for the post. I hope the running's going well. Hopefully this inclement weather is not messing with your run game too much. I think of you being outside, running around, slipping and sliding. I remember my days in Boston, not so much on the sidewalks. When I was younger, I would just run at night because the streetlights would be on and I'd be totally fine. I'm not sure I'd be so successful with that these days. Anyway, I hope you're doing well and you're healthy and you're safe. For everyone else here as well, please share. Every Friday I'm here. Also every Wednesday, for those of you interested in the team, I also do a webinar introducing the team and putting that sort of out to everyone. If you have questions about how we work and how we support our athletes inside our community, and that's at 11 a.m. You can learn about that and more over at endurancenation.us/events. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Great to see everybody. This will be posted up on the YouTube channel and on our podcast channel as well, so you can read about it and learn about it. If you have any other questions about the over distance stuff, don't hesitate to ask. It's what we do. We answer questions and we do our best to make sure that everyone is their best on race day. All right. Take care. Have a great weekend, everyone. I hope wherever you are, if you've got winter weather, it's okay. If you're down south getting hammered by the winter weather, I hope you warm up. Definitely donated money yesterday. Hopefully goes to make a difference. It's really hard to read about people who are struggling in these times, which are already just so hard for everyone. So I hope that you find some warmth and safety as well, no matter where you are. Okay, everyone, take care, and I'll see you guys next Friday. All right, see you.